For now, I want to go to Leon Panetta, the former White House chief of staff under Bill Clinton, former Secretary of Defense, much more. Leon, always good to have you. And if I could maybe get back to your chief of staff role there, there is even talk that maybe this president will replace his chief of staff. It's all conjecture, but it's a scramble. And a lot of the finger pointing is coming this time from fellow Democrats. Larry Summers, who served as Treasury Secretary in the Clinton administration, I think during the same time you were there. But what do you make of this and what the administration has to do?
Well, there's no question that the administration needs to develop a clear strategy as to how they're going to deal with the inflation threat. Look, there's a lot of crises going on between COVID and the war and, these shootings and everything else that's happening. So there's a full plate at the White House, and I can understand that it's not always easy to kind of pick up a strategy on all of those areas. But nevertheless, when it does come to the economy and something that's impacting on all Americans at a 40-year high on inflation and the threat of a potential recession, I think the president has to come together on a strategy to try to deal with that. Now, obviously, the Fed plays a large role. He met with the Fed. That's important. But I think the White House has to work on a strategy that includes perhaps trying to reduce the tariffs with China, that includes speeding up legal immigration to try to provide some workers for the jobs that are needed here, looks at a comprehensive energy policy, not only including, obviously, renewable energy, but also domestic production, so that there really is a
Leon, he's not big on the latter. And I know you're saying this, you're trying to be pragmatic about it, look at all options. I get that. But even the Washington Post today, which I would say maybe is a little left of center, saying that, the administration is messing up on its own. Easy to be a Monday morning quarterback on this, but a Post editorial today in hindsight saying this is the president, Leon. His $1.9 trillion rescue package in March 2021 was too large. He can't correct that now, but he needs to make good choices. Now, the president does not regret that $1.9 trillion package. None of his top lieutenants do. But a number of prominent Democrats, like this editorial spelled out, do think that he was a contributing factor. Does it make a difference now, more than a year into this, that he acknowledged, I botched it, I overdid it, or does it serve any purpose for him to say, I'm going to reverse things, I'm going to change things?
Well, I was always a believer that the truth is the best policy when it comes to being president of the United States. And so, obviously, Treasury Secretary Yellen admitted that a mistake was made with regards to looking at inflation a year ago. And assuming that it would be transitory rather than have the impact that we're seeing today.
Do you read into her statement, Larry? I'm sorry, I did it again. I'm very rude. But do you read into her statement that she was making the acknowledgement for the administration and that that's where it stops? As far as the administration is concerned, maybe they messed up. But the president won't say that. We've already heard the Federal Reserve Chairman acknowledge that he probably should have pounced on this inflation thing sooner. He didn't. But it stops with those guys. Is that enough?
Well, again, I think that it would be well for the president as well as, look, it was not just the Treasury Secretary. It was a whole group of economists. It was the White House. Right. It was others that came to the same conclusion. That this would be transitory. So they all made a mistake. And I think the president probably would be helpful if he acknowledged that he made a mistake, along with the Treasury Secretary and the other economists, but that he is now going to take steps to try to deal with it. I think this is an important point to really try to pull together some of the business leaders in the country and really establish some kind of a council there at the White House that can provide guidance as to what steps need to be taken and what restraints need to be put in place. Look, we're in an emergency situation in this country. We are in a war. We are fighting a pandemic. There are other crises taking place. I think the president can use that kind of emergency to say, we're going to take some steps to apply some restraints here to try to get inflation under control.
I just wonder, Lynn, in order to do that, you have to change some of your ways of thinking. I noticed maybe with your influence, Bill Clinton was able to do that and was able to be more pragmatic, reach across the aisle, work with the other side. I don't know. You know Joe Biden far better than I do. Is he capable of doing that? And then will the core of his party, the progressives, even those the younger members advising him now, who don't go back nearly as far with him, will they let him?
Well, we're talking about the interests of the country. And I understand we're in a political year. Politics prevails on every front. I understand that problem. But when you're president of the United States, your responsibility is to the entire country, and trying to figure out exactly what the right approach here is to dealing with a major problem that's facing this country. And to do that, I think it has to be both public and private, and it has to be both Republican and Democrat working together to try to figure out a strategy that will confront inflation. I think he can do it. I think it's possible to do it. We've had to face those problems in the past, but the answer is to develop something that will be credible with the American people. And it's not going to be credible with the American people unless it represents all of the interests that have something to lose in this inflation battle.
You know, I just wonder, you talk about doing things like reaching out to CEOs and the rest. Many of them, depending on the sector and the industry, Leon, feel burned toward that he has gone after them, blaming the oil companies potentially for gouging folks, other food giants for cornering the market and making prices unnecessarily high, gouging and the rest. So once burnt, are you more than twice shy? Or in other words, do you really start saying, I don't trust this guy, and now has he burnt bridges to them?
Well, there's always the danger that people resort to kind of knee-jerk political responses to trying to place blame. I think they share some blame in that. Actually, Secretary Yellen commented on that as well. So the time now is to kind of move beyond that and really try to work with those that really have an interest in what is best for our economy right now. What steps need to be taken? And in order to make it credible, it really does have to represent business interests. Labor ought to be part of that. We ought to have some economists that are part of that, and it ought to be Republicans and Democrats together. There really does need to be a credible strategy that the country can take some comfort in. Look, there's no simple answers here. Nobody's kidding anybody. There isn't any quick fixes. But if there was at least confidence that there are a group of people that are really trying to develop the right strategy, I think that would be an important move by the administration.
All right, that's something we're going to have to watch closely. To your point, Leon, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.